The moment the final whistle blew and the cameras caught that stunned look on the Lions sideline, you could feel it in the air. Something had snapped. Not just a season, not just a game, but a narrative that had been carefully protected for months. And when Shannon Sharpe dropped the words that Jared Goff had officially put Dan Campbell on the hot seat, it wasn't exaggeration. It wasn't shock value. It was the uncomfortable truth crashing through the noise. Because this wasn't just another loss. This was exposure. This was collapse. This was everything the Lions have tried to convince themselves they weren't becoming, unraveling in real time. 5 sacks, 5 turnovers, a quarterback who looked overwhelmed, a coaching staff that looked out of answers, and a team that suddenly looked like it didn't recognize itself. This wasn't about one bad night. This was about a pattern finally catching up. And the most damning part, it didn't feel surprising. It felt inevitable. Because when your quarterback turns the ball over 5 times, when your offense looks confused, when your identity disappears under pressure, the questions stop being polite and start getting personal. This wasn't a stumble. This was a reckoning. And that's why this moment matters. Because once the doubt creeps in at this level, it doesn't quietly go away. It demands answers, and someone always pays the price. And if you think this is just about Jared Goff, think again. Because this loss dragged Dan Campbell straight into the spotlight, and not the motivational kneecap-biting version people fell in love with, but the version that has to explain why everything fell apart when it mattered most. Now let's get into what really happened, why it matters, and why this loss might change the future of the Detroit Lions more than anyone wants to admit. And before we go any further, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a like, because this conversation is only getting deeper, and you're going to want to stay with us for all of it. What unfolded against the Vikings wasn't just a loss. It was a full-blown unraveling, and it started with the most damning stat of all. 5 turnovers by Jared Goff alone. 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles, and that doesn't even account for the overall sloppiness that infected the entire offense. This was a team that had taken care of the football all season, one of the best in the league at protecting possessions, and in one night, it all collapsed. Coming into this game, they had turned the ball over just 8 times all year, and suddenly they matched that kind of chaos in a single outing. That's not bad luck. That's a breakdown. And when Shannon pointed it out, he wasn't just criticizing execution. He was questioning leadership, preparation, and accountability. Because turnovers like that don't happen in a vacuum. They happen when timing is off, confidence is shaken, and systems stop functioning under pressure. And then came the part nobody wanted to talk about, the moment when Dan Campbell took over the play calling. That was supposed to be the stabilizing move. That was supposed to be the spark. Instead, it looked like confusion. The run game, once the heartbeat of this offense, vanished. Jahmyr Gibbs, who had been torching defenses week after week, suddenly became an afterthought. The physical identity that defined Detroit simply disappeared, and when that happens, the entire structure collapses. You could feel Shannon's frustration when he asked where the run game went, because it wasn't just about play selection, it was about identity. This team was built to punch you in the mouth, and instead, they were swinging air. And then the offensive line, once the pride of the roster, started cracking. The center struggling to even snap the ball cleanly. The left tackle situation turning into a revolving door. The acknowledgement that Penei Sewell, their best lineman, might be misused because of patchwork solutions elsewhere. That's not a talent problem. That's a structural problem. That's what happens when injuries, miscalculations, and roster decisions all collide at once. And when protection breaks down, quarterbacks panic, even the ones you trust. Jared Goff didn't just have a bad game. He looked overwhelmed, rushed, unsure. 5 sacks, 5 turnovers. That's not just losing, that's imploding. But the most uncomfortable part of this entire conversation was what it revealed about the Lions' long-term direction. Because while the Vikings were winning with a backup quarterback who barely threw for 51 yards, Detroit couldn't overcome its own mistakes despite having elite weapons. Justin Jefferson barely touched the ball, and yet Minnesota still controlled the game. That should terrify Detroit fans. Because it means the Lions weren't beaten by brilliance, they were beaten by discipline and defense. And when Shannon pointed out that the Vikings did this while dealing with quarterback instability, it cut even deeper. It raised the question nobody wants to ask out loud. What exactly is the Lions' plan at quarterback? Jared Goff has been steady, reliable, and productive at times, but moments like this expose the ceiling. When things are clean, he can execute. When chaos hits, the cracks show. And that's not an insult. It's a reality. The league is built around quarterbacks who can survive chaos. That's the standard. And when Shannon started talking about how other teams manage to find quarterbacks, how some franchises never seem to solve that puzzle, it hit home. Because Detroit thought they had solved it. They thought they had stability. But stability without adaptability doesn't win championships. Then came the conversation about development, about missed opportunities, about letting certain quarterbacks walk, about betting on potential instead of proven production. And that's where the criticism sharpened. Because when you draft a quarterback high, you're making a statement about your timeline, your patience, and your expectations. But when that quarterback hasn't played meaningful football, when injuries and inexperience dominate the narrative, and when the offense collapses in his absence, it forces a reevaluation of every decision that led there. The frustration wasn't just about one game. It was about years of choices converging in one brutal night. And through it all, Dan Campbell stands in the center of the storm. The same coach praised for his passion, his culture building, his fearlessness, now facing the reality that emotion doesn't fix execution. Leadership doesn't erase turnovers. Motivation doesn't block edge rushers. At some point, strategy matters. And that's why the question of play calling matters so much. When you take control, you take responsibility. And when it goes wrong, there's nowhere to hide. The defense did its part. That's what makes this sting even more. They created opportunities. They kept the game within reach. They gave the offense chances to recover. And still, the offense collapsed. That imbalance is what makes this loss so damaging, because it suggests that the Lions aren't a complete team yet. They have pieces, they have talent, but they don't have cohesion under pressure. And then there's the division. Look around. The competition isn't going anywhere. The path isn't getting easier. Other teams have quarterbacks who can carry games, who can erase mistakes, who can respond when things go wrong. Detroit right now doesn't have that luxury. And until they do, every mistake will feel heavier, every loss more damning. This wasn't just a bad night. It was a warning. A warning that the margin between contender and pretender is thinner than anyone wants to admit. A warning that culture alone can't save you when execution fails. And a warning that if the Lions don't figure out their quarterback situation soon, all the progress, all the hype, all the belief could vanish just as fast as it arrived. Because in this league, hope is fragile, and the moment you stop protecting it with results, it disappears.